Hi, it's Jay from Iridescent Tarot, back with some more sparkle for you. So I am still wearing my Halloween Monster Mash-tastic nails, which I mentioned in my last video, and this Nocturne Alchemy Pumpkin 30 perfume. But for today's video, I really wanted to respond to Shanna Dee, one of my favorite tarot tubers, who created a tag called #SecondFirstDeck. And the premise of this tag was to discuss not the first deck that you got, but the second deck, the reason you came back to tarot. And I thought that was such an insightful question to pose. And specifically just listening to Shanna's video where she was so vulnerable about the experiences that she's had in and out of her tarot and witchy world, and it inspired me to share a little bit about my tarot origin story. So I'd like to start at the very beginning, and that is, I think I was about 8 years old when I got my first deck. And I don't know if I got these at the same time or what the deal was, but essentially I have this deck, which it was from Barnes & Noble. There's no name on it, but the best I could find is that it's called Tarot by Jonathan Dee. And I don't know why it's connected in my brain to this story, but for some reason it is, that when I grew up, we only went on 2 trips that required a plane ride. And I remember one of them was when I was 8 years old, and there was a woman sitting, I think, in front of us on the plane. And I just remember her either giving me a tarot card reading or playing with a tarot card deck and me talking to her about it and me being super, super interested in it, to the point where we exchanged email addresses and we were like pen pals for a little bit. So I don't know if she gave me this deck, or if I bought this deck after meeting her, or if I had this deck already and didn't like use it until I met her, or maybe I had the deck and brought it on the plane and she showed me how to use it. I really can't remember, but I know that it has something to do with the lady on the plane. But I had always been interested in magic and mystical things, and there's like a local metaphysical shop that I would always ask my mom to take me to, and she would. So it's quite possible that I had this deck before the plane ride. I think that the original box set of this deck comes with a book, but I don't have that. I just have the deck, and I don't read with this deck because it's just a sentimental thing. This deck, the Healing with the Angels Oracle cards, I'm pretty sure I got at that metaphysical shop. And one thing about my personality is that I really like to keep my things nice, and that's been like a constant struggle for me to try to like use my things. And so, as you can tell, this still has the plastic wrap on it, and I don't know if I ever used it and just like would keep putting it back in the plastic wrap, or if I just simply never used it. I don't know. But yeah, I just remember thinking that these were super, super special and important. And so I still keep them together. This is like my sentimental set from when I was around 8 years old. Fast forward to around 2015, 2016, I think it was around that realm when the Starchild tarot came out. I hadn't been involved in the tarot world, but I was really into the indie perfume scene. And people were asking questions about other indie things that people like, and somebody mentioned that there's a such thing as indie tarot decks, and that perked my ears right up. They pointed out this deck in particular, the Starchild Tarot, and immediately I knew my life was going to change. Like, there was no way that I could go on not having this deck. It was so my aesthetic. The pinks, the purples, the blues, the sparklies. Everything about this was like the pinnacle of beauty to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, the edges, the backs, everything about it, I fell in love with. And so I was like, sure, I will force feed myself 78 card meanings in order to be able to use that deck. And I've said before that I don't know if I would have been able to get myself to learn all the meanings unless I found a deck that was this beautiful to me. When I think back on that time, I was in the midst of a very difficult higher education degree, and I can't figure out like where I fit in the extra time to study this voluntarily on top of like what I was already studying. So it's a mystery to me how I managed to get myself to learn the meanings here. But I really have this deck to thank for me being involved in the tarot tube community at all, because if I hadn't discovered this deck, I wouldn't have known anything about the indie tarot deck scene, tarot tube in general, and it's been something that I've been a part of in one way or another ever since. Now, I will say that I am like a serial hobbyist. I have many different hobbies and enjoyments and things that I like to do. While tarot is one of those things, my interest has definitely waxed and waned over the years. Like, I had a huge, strong interest for the first few years when I learned everything, and then I would say I probably backed off a little bit, and then it's all kind of cyclical, like my interest in it comes and goes, waxes and wanes, but it's always been there as like a through line in the background. I'll do you one better, Shanna, and tell you about my first deck, which is the Playful Heart Tarot, which I've edged in rainbow sparkly colors, and I've added a few little sparkly elements. You can kind of see like the heart eyes that I put sparkles on, or like those little dots there, just adding like a little bit of glitz to it. But as I was saying, my interest waxes and wanes, and the Playful Heart Tarot is the deck that sucked me back in after a period of waning or waxing, whichever one means that I was not super into tarot, like in the moment. I had this deck in my collection. It was a deck that I liked, but like for me, it was kind of like, it was just there, and I didn't have any like super meaningful connection with it. And in the midst of a tower season in my life, I reconnected with this deck and forged one of the most meaningful connections that I have with any deck, with this deck. And that connection leads us up to the present day, where my connection with this deck has been so strong and so meaningful and so important that I am like full-fledged, full force in the tarot world right now, and have been for a while. And it probably is part of the reason why I wanted to get started making videos on TarotTube. That is something that I tried to do in the past. I'm finally here and present and doing the thing that I've wanted to do for many years, and that is participate in the TarotTube community in this way, not as a lurker or as a commenter, but as somebody who's an active participant in creating my reality. And it has led to realizations for me, which is like, I just felt like prior to making videos, I didn't feel like a legitimate part of the community because I thought I wasn't adding to it in any meaningful way. But once I started making videos, I really realized how important my voice was as a commenter, and I don't think that I did it enough. Like, looking back, I regret not sharing my thoughts and things that, like the thoughts that were going through my head while I was watching videos. Like, I just kept them inside and didn't really think that it was like important for me to share them. And now I feel like the comment section is the most important part of TarotTube. Like, that's where the community happens. There isn't a great online shared third space for us online that's free and available to everyone. The people who watch the videos and comment and engage in that way are so vital in the TarotTube world. It makes making videos worth it. And I just feel bad for former me, like thinking that my voice wasn't important then. And I really urge you, if you do watch the videos and you find yourself nodding along, you find yourself like wishing to say something or wanting to know more about some certain thing, that you actually take the time to share those thoughts, because they are so important and needed. And they are why I'm here creating videos now. So that was my third first tarot deck, and I love this deck so much. And I feel like if the inside of my brain could be barfed out onto cards, it would look like this. I don't know why, but I'm being called to just shuffle and pull a card for us. So let's see what Playful Heart has to say. Ooh, I haven't used this version in a while. I've been using the smaller gilded one as my working deck. It's weird to shuffle the big one. The wheel is one of my favorite cards in this deck. I have a print of this on my fridge. I love that no matter what season we're in or what uncontrollable things are going on around us, that we can be this baby Buddha, present in the center, grounded in the moment, returning to our heart center in order to be our own best friend. One of the things that I was talking about, specifically this card with my husband this week, is the Buddhist concept, is the idea that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, and how this Buddha in the center could elect to really their energy outward to all of these external circumstances and kind of like wallow in the suffering, or they can sit there in this position that has the least amount of movement on the wheel and try their best to ground down into their own power in the center. And this TarotTube space for me is a place where I get to do that. So I just love Playful Heart. Okay, so that was my first deck and my second first deck and my third first deck. So I hope that you enjoyed. Thank you so much, Shanna, for creating this space for us to do this, and I hope you enjoyed. Please do all the things, like, subscribe, comment, all the things. And I will talk to you later. Signing out.